Hey everyone, this is Yig from the forums, and I'm going to give you that tutorial I told you about. As you can tell from the looks of everything, it's your traditional strategy game setup. It's a grid. People sit on the grid. You see the square underneath their units. So basically, it's your traditional strategy game design with a football field-looking map. Okay, let's skip through all this dialogue. You can move the arrow. You can move the camera with the arrow keys or the mouse. I prefer to use the mouse. It's much better. You're gonna be using the mouse to click, so why not use it to move as well? Okay. Pressing C on the keyboard lets you change the angle of appearance from the camera. So see it from the side, from the other person's perspective. It's up to you. Okay, so let's go through here. Everybody has tackle grid, or a tackle zone. Basically, a tackle zone symbolizes the areas that are being guarded by other people. So the units have a tackle zone all around them. It's the 8 squares around a player. That is their tackle grid. Basically, you can enter someone's tackle grid, or their tackle zone, but if you leave their tackle zone, you have to do a dodge check to get out of their tackle zone. And based on where you're dodging to, determines how hard it is to actually succeed in that dodge. So even if you're surrounded by people, dodging away from them isn't the problem. It's where you're dodging to that makes it difficult. So that's basically one thing to always keep in mind. It's the difficulty of a dodge is based on where you're going, not where you're coming from. So if you're dodging from, say you're up here with this guy and you dodge away from him, then it's basically the easiest dodge you can do. There's nobody around where you're going. But if you dodged next to somebody else, then you'd have to take into consideration that person being there. Saying that you're dodging away from people, which is assuming that if you're dodging away from somebody, you're jumping away and their attack is missing you. But because they're attacking you where you're going, and those people attacking you as you enter their square, makes it much harder. So it's always where you're going to, not where you came from. Except when people that you're leaving have a tail, which is a skill based on a mutation skill. So if they have that, then they actually affect you as you're leaving their squares as well, not just entering them. If you press G, you can see all the tackle grids on the screen. So that's really good for knowing where you can go safely and where you can't go safely. Okay, so let's go through here. Okay, now when you kick off the ball, you can pick anywhere you want to kick on this side of the field. The thing is, though, if it falls off the field or goes into the end zone right here, then they get to pick who gets it. So the point is to try to kick it as far back as possible without knocking it out or in the end zone. The thing is, when the kick hits the ground, it flops around a lot. So, and with the kick skill that you can have your character learn, you can have more accurate kicks. So you're better off being a little safe than you are about trying to get it so far back that they're just going to be like, oh, well, I went to this, so I get to pick this guy over here to take the ball, and that's your entire attempt failed. So rather than getting it really far back and making them run the whole way across the field, instead they can get to run it from half. It's really bad. You would rather just be safe. Okay, after a kick, there is a kickoff event. This one that occurred right here is cheering fans. What happens is each team rolls a 6-sided dice, adds their fame, and the person who wins gets a extra team reroll for their entire team. Okay, so next part of the tutorial is explaining movement. As you can see right here, this character's movement, as displayed down here, is a 6. So he can move to any area within this entire green grid. But he also can choose to move an additional 7th or 8th space at the cost of a random chance that he will fail. When you roll into one of these, when you go into one of these extra rolls, which is a 7 or an 8, when you get past your 6 movement allowance, you can choose to go further. If you roll a 1 on your dice result, you fail. If you roll a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, any other number, which is roughly a 16% chance of failure, very small chance, you will be able to go that extra square. But thing is, if you fail, then it's a turnover. In this game, it does not work like traditional football. You do not have 4 downs to get a certain number of yards before you get a turnover, or an interception causes a turnover. The way this actually happens is any failure, anything that occurs during your turn that knocks you down, any team member down, if you drop the ball, you fail a block, anything, ends your turn and goes to your opponent's turn. Each player will actually do a total of 16 turns within a game, 8 each half-time, for a total of 32 turns. That encompasses the entire game. So, failing one technically is making you fail one of your 16 turns. It's dramatic to fail. So the point is, you always want to do the easiest actions you have available first, rather than doing the hard ones first. So it's always better to say just move a guy within his movement allowance without walking into any tackle zones, which is 100% safe, and nothing's going to occur, before you go ahead and do something else that requires a roll to be successful. Because if you fail that roll, which is why you can buy re-rolls, you get a turnover. So the first thing we're going to have to do is pick up the ball. Picking up the ball requires an agility roll. His agility is 3. Agility determines a lot of things. It determines picking up the ball, it determines passing the ball, catching the ball, dodging in or out of a tackle zone, or dodging out of a tackle zone, so on. So anything agile based is agility. Intercepting is agility. Everything in that aspect. So the way agility works is very simple. It might take some getting used to get used to it, but it's ultimately a very simple idea. If your agility is 1, you have to roll a 6 for a success. If you use a 2, you have to roll a 5. A 3, you have to roll a 4. A 4, you have to roll a 3. A 5, you have to roll a 2. And if your agility is 6, you only have to roll a 1. So the way it works, though, is if you roll a 1, it's a guaranteed failure. If you roll a 6, it's a guaranteed success. So technically, a player that has 5 agility and a player that has 6 agility has the same chance to just randomly fluke and mess up. So you roll a 1, you always fail. But technically, even though you have 6 agility and it says you need a 1 to succeed, rolling that 1 will make you fail. But having anything over 5 agility will make doing difficult dodges and difficult interceptions and difficult things 1 better. So basically anything past 5 agility does nothing to, it does nothing but make it easier to do more advanced dodges, which, trust me, advanced dodges are used everywhere throughout here. So just trying to assure you that even though you have an equal chance of randomly flopping and failing from 5 agility to 6 agility far exceeds 5, and the very other aspects that agility can influence. In this case, he has to roll a 4, but since you're picking up the ball, you get +1. When picking up the ball, you get +1 for picking it up. Initially, would making me have to roll a 3 or higher instead of a 4. But for anybody else around that tackle zone overlaps this where the ball is, you add +1 to what you have to roll. So in this case, it's really easy. I just walk up and pick it up. There's nobody else around the ball that's an enemy. So the agility roll success is 4. I get +1, so I have to roll a 3. And he succeeds. And like I said, all agility rolls work this way. You roll your agility roll for success or failure, and then something modifies it up or down. So, yeah. And then after you pick up the ball, you can finish your turn, your movement. Now he's going to just do a pass. This is also a very risky maneuver, as I said, because he's choosing to pick it up and pass it as his first action. You wouldn't do this in a normal game. You'd wait and do all your safer actions first. In this case, to throw the ball to him, he has to roll a 4. If you throw the ball within this area, you get +1 to your roll. If you throw it within this area, +0. This over here, it's -1, and this right here is -2. So since he's on the line, it's +0. It's a basic agility roll. So with agility of 3, as I said, you have to roll a 4 for success. Now he has 4 agility, and he's catching the ball. So he'll have to roll a 3 or higher with his 4 agility, as I explained previously. So he has to hit this with a 4, and he has to pass this with a 3.